So I know I said I wouldn't do any more aprons, but this isn't a 2-minute skill. This is a project. It's a special order. The order I was given it was fairly open. It was an apron for an adult with nothing specific about design except that it should be blingy, and I think I've done that. So for the actual design itself, I didn't quite know where to start, so I decided to start with just a black fabric for the front, and then when I went out and found a lining that I liked, which is this really nice butterfly print, I used the idea of butterflies just kind of flitting around everywhere as the basis for the design. So most of these are just glitter on glue. I've bought a large selection of glitters to do this, so any further projects that need glitter I'm pretty well stocked. So that's kind of what took the time, was actually doing each individual layer of glitter here. Essentially I kind of did, I glued the outline and then came back and added kind of the body details and some crystals and that kind of thing. And then the next most tedious job was knocking off the glitter. Now for kind of the first layer of glitter, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to get only one colour off, but for every layer you do thereafter you're going to get a mixture. So I've separated, I've kept the kind of mixed ones in a jar, and I'll find a use for them separately rather than putting them back in the bags. So I don't do a lot of glitter work because it gets everywhere. But it's fairly satisfying, and just using the basic outline of a butterfly means that you can do anything you like on the inside for the pattern itself, as long as they're symmetrical. So I'm using a selection of these glitters and different crystals and that kind of thing to give it some emphasis, some life and some movement. And as the young lady this is going for has a name beginning with A, I've got a nice big initial in the middle here with even more crystals. Now this took the better part of a day to stick all of these crystals on, which again is kind of part of the course when you're doing this kind of project. And actually the original idea I had for this was to cover the whole thing in crystals, but just doing this much was plenty. So there was a stage where I got to where I kind of ran out of patience when it came to glittering, and I wanted to give it a little slightly different contrasting feel. So instead I made some small butterflies out of EPA foam. These have just been embroidered on with embroidery thread and some beads and that kind of thing, just to make it slightly different, slightly more interesting. And I've backed these onto some felt just so they're stabilised and all the loose threads are covered. And when I stitch these down, I'm only going to stitch down the body so that the wings still have movement. So I'm kind of in the process of placing these in interesting ways. They've had a variation of many variations of where they're going to go. Essentially I want them placed where they'll move but not get in the way of whoever's wearing them, or wearing the apron. And I don't want to put too many similar ones together. But that being said, I've got 7 here that are really very different from each other, which is half the point of doing this. I want to just make sure they are different enough and all facing in different directions to give slightly more movement to things. So it does echo the pattern of the fabric on the inside. So I started with an idea of kind of going through a rainbow, so starting with yellows at the top and then graduating down. But as the The glitter went on, it doesn't quite follow. I'm still trying to keep that pattern here as much as possible. But I'm not entirely sure it's worked or is identifiable as being a kind of rainbow spectrum, but that's fine. So I've pretty much decided where the 3D butterflies are going to go, so I just need to sew them down. But before I do that, I want to put the strap in, or the ribbon. Now my normal apron designs have ribbon built in, or at least sewn into them as they go, but this one I left it separate, so because I didn't want it in the way for the whole glittering process. So I've left a channel about 1 inch wide up either side so that I can sew in. Well, not sewing, I can slide in the ribbon. So I'll make sure that these added butterflies don't actually get in the way of that. So I've got my ribbon. And a safety pin, which is probably the easiest way of doing this. So I'm going to double the ribbon over and then fold it up and then put the pin through it a couple of times, just so it's sitting relatively flat, and then just start wiggling really. You can do this with pretty much anything. You can try and do it with kind of a bit of dowel or something like that. I find that doing it this way means you can feel the pin and just kind of wiggle it down into place and just keep pulling along. Like that, so it's kind of caterpillar crawls up the inside of this channel. I was debating whether or not to actually inset the ribbon anyway, but I'm not so confident whether I could have missed it when I was sewing and ended up with a ribbon that doesn't move. You want the flexibility so that when it's worn it can be adjusted. Now, as I normally do, I'm not going to cut this ribbon until I'm satisfied that it fits neatly and there'll be enough room for manoeuvre here. That's the first half. I'm going to pull through a decent amount. Probably more than I need, but I'd rather have too much and just need to adjust it slightly and have the other problem. Use this technique for anything you need to kind of thread ribbon or string through. So you just need essentially it's a needle, but just a blunt one. And as long as your channel is neat and clear of kind of odd bits of fabric or whatever, it will slide through really easily. I might even start doing this to my other aprons when I make them. It seems that every time I make another batch of aprons I add something to the design and overcomplicate it slightly. That's 33. I'm making this blind, that is, I've never met the person this is going to, which is not what I consider ideal. So what I'm going to do is be quite generous with the ribbon. Because I don't know this person, I don't know how tall they are, how they wear an apron. Some people wear them quite low, some up against the chin. So I'm giving it a decent amount of extra leeway. So I've given at least, what's that, 18 inches or maybe even 2 foot of neck room. So just for now, I'm going to tie a knot at the bottom here, or the opening here, just to say that that is my end. So that won't then slip out. Fold this over so I can compare the relative lengths of these. And I want the same length of ribbon, both sides. That, I'm just going to cut off this bit that the pin was under, the pin was through. At an angle so it doesn't fray. So that's the ribbon's done, and for now I'm just going to tie a loop here. Normally with my normal aprons I put a button on the inside and make sure that the holes either end are too small for it so that you'll never lose the ribbon. But here I've got some little wooden butterflies. I think that would be a nice pretty addition just on the ribbon about here, just to stop it from putting through. So that's the plan. So I've got a couple of those. And then I'll sew on all my extra butterflies and then we're pretty much done. So I'll show you some final pictures and then this is going to go off to the person that ordered it. And although it's not really an apron making video, it is kind of an apron project, but I think I've learned a bit more about working with glitter and working with crystals, and I've learned that I really don't like it. So yeah, I'll show you some pictures and I'll see you again next week.